Alan's got a chance to lift ahead there, reading texts and one thing and another. So keep him busy. I want to see him working here. Don't forget, text us here 077 326 9913. We're very pleased to have a young man here from Perth, Keith Morrow. Where do you live at? Do you live in the village of Corn or outside it?
I live just outside the famous Corn, home of Corn Flute Band. Everyone knows that, I think. So.
Well, a lot of people knows the Morrows anyhow. They nearly all are in the band.
There's quite a few of us. I'm basically a lifelong member almost. So.
Well, that's good. But when did you start seeing poems and stuff?
I've been writing stories and poems really since I've been at school. Whenever the teacher gave everyone an essay for homework, everybody else in the class hated it, but I always enjoyed it and wrote loads and loads of pages, more than I should have been. And I've been writing stories and poems and performing them really since school, so quite a while now.
Right. I have heard that you're quite an expert at these stories and poems,
definitely wouldn't say expert.
Well, that's what they say around the locality, that you're very, very good, and I was directed towards you to make sure that I would get a hold of you.
Thank you very much for your kind words now.
Well, I know it's the kind words of the people that live around you. They say that you have a unique style of writing, that you write about people and about things around you.
I do indeed. I usually write about things to do with Northern Ireland, sometimes things that are in the news. Sometimes I perform pieces for people maybe at their special events, be it maybe a friend's wedding, birthday parties, maybe cases where their friends will give me information about them and I will turn it into a rhyme, or just sometimes general stuff that really that I have here tonight. So
you're going to be like the famous poet from Castle Dawson.
Well, I would aspire to be many things, but I'm doubtful that I'll ever make it.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Well, I think I do. Yeah.
I would say he is a marvellous man at saying poetry and writing books too. Tell us, what's the name of this poem or story you're going to tell us tonight?
Well, this first poem is about it's a couple called Sammy and Mary, and it was actually a poem that I'd done at a friend's wedding a few years ago, and it's just an interesting take. My two poems tonight, coincidentally, are about weddings and marriage. That wasn't planned. I don't know how that happened, but they do happen to be. But sort of in a Northern Ireland context, put it that way,
well,
in a funny context. So.
Funny enough, I am very glad to hear that, because we have a young man here, and he's engaged, and he's going to get married next year. So I am really looking forward to hearing this poem. So, on you go then.
Thank you. Sammy loved his Mary more and more each day. The only reason they were not married, he could not afford to pay. Mary, I love you in the morning, afternoon and night, and I would love to marry you, only things are very tight. I thought we could wed at Christmas, but I think I'll wait till June, because I'm starting to get busy, and I'll have more money soon. Mary looked at Sammy, her eyes too wide to mention. She said, Sam, I'll wait for you. Should it mean waiting till you get the pension? But Sammy, don't get me wrong. I hope we don't have to wait that long. Well, poor Sammy worked hard till his hands they bled, and Mary washed, cooked and cleaned till her face turned red. The strain was starting to get to them now, and every so often there'd be an odd row. Sammy would moan, why do I bother? Nothing I do is ever good enough for your mother. Mary would shout, leave my mother alone. I should have listened to her and still me own. But they continued to strive day after day, and as the wedding got closer, so did they. As final plans were being made, the pounds they were still few, so Sam and Mary had to take a shortcut or two. He couldn't afford a limo, so how to look the part? Well, lucky enough his mate was the owner of a donkey and cart. Poor Mary looked in pure dismay. I'm having no ass on my special day. Then she said, well, I hope this donkey doesn't falter, or the only donkey standing will be the one jilted at the altar. Mary, he said, what else could I do? I looked at the donkey and I thought of you. Then Mary asked, how should I wear my hair? On your head, said Sam, I think I'd prefer. No, up or down, curly or straight. Whatever, said Sam. You always look great. When she went to look for a dress, more problems again. Some were too fancy and some were too plain. With the girl in the shop she became embroiled and ended up with a dress for a tenner that was slightly soiled. The girl assured Mary the dress would look fine on the day as long as she stood in a certain way. And then there was the cake. They couldn't afford that, and a wedding without a cake would be terribly flat. So Mary's friend Annie said she'd do her part and provide them both with an apple tart. Only half cooked and soft in the bottom. Usually her apple tarts were rotten, but serve it out with plenty of cream and the horrible bits would never be seen. Finally there was the honeymoon. They'd planned New England in the fall, but were making do with Daniel O'Donnell's hotel in Kincastle and Donegal. May turned to June and the evenings were clear. The couple's big day was finally here. There they were, Sam and Mary in love. The donkey stood at peace and the sun shone above. Mary with her hair up and her lovely dress. Sam thought he was marrying a beautiful princess. Although on her all eyes were focused, the soiled mark on the dress was never noticed. After the wedding, they worried about the food, but even Annie's soft-bottomed apple tart seemed to taste good. All that remained was to bid farewell to friends all, and head off for that honeymoon in County Donegal. That day Sam had taken Mary for his wife, and they lived happily together for the rest of their life.
Keith, that was just marvellous. How long does it take you to write a poem like that? Does it just come to you in a flash, or does it?
Normally when I'm writing poems, people that know me always know I always do this. I always wait until about a night or a couple of nights before the event and then do it at the last minute. I couldn't sit down to write for something months in advance. I think it's the adrenaline rush of knowing that perhaps you know you have to do something tomorrow night and maybe you're sitting 24 hours and you have nothing on paper and you just know you have to get it done, and the rush of knowing that I think spurs me on. So it's it normally was very quickly in the end whenever I put pen to paper.
So do you write about people and things that you see around you, or do you see some individual and say, I'd love to do a poem on them?
Yeah, it's I suppose it's very much as you say. I mean, Northern Ireland, as we know, has always provided so much material with all our funny little problems and foibles and all the various characters and public life and just characters, everyday characters like the man or woman who lives down the road from you. There's just an absolute abundance of material in this country, and I think that's enough incentive. You just have to go out and look around you, and there's always plenty there.
Yes, we have some wonderful characters, and every town land about Maghera.
Yes.